I'm Maddie Itiz, and you're on Native Ground. We're here with Molly Surya, the director and writer of the film called What They Don't Talk About When They Talk About Love. Molly, thank you for coming and meeting us today.
It's a pleasure.
So what was your inspiration behind this script?
My inspiration was, at that time, a couple of years ago, I met again with my relative that I haven't seen for a while, and she's actually a visually impaired. And at that time, she updated her Facebook status on her mobile phone, and that kind of amazed me. So at that time, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing if someone is making a film out of this, out of visually impaired community, and how they deal with life, and just their everyday life, instead of putting them in a zero to hero position where everybody is going to pity them and it's just treating them as a human being. And I started with that idea and developed it about a couple of years. Yeah.
Why the title? Tell us a little bit about the title, because it's a long title.
Yeah. It's pretty long. I think it's the longest title in Sundance right now. And they always, squeeze it out. You can't actually read the whole title because it's too long. Actually, it came from a book. It's actually from an American author, from Raymond Carver. He has a book titled What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. And in that show, actually it's a short story, and that short story actually consists of people talking about love, and I think it was two couples talking about love circumstances and all that. And I think even though the film has nothing to do with the book, but I just want to pick up that expression and twist it around, yeah, something like that.
Tell us a little bit about casting. You went through the process, and how was it? Did you have any idea in your mind who you were going to cast when you started writing it?
There are some casting that I got from like an open casting. I called some people like off Twitter or something random like that. There's a casting here, would you guys come? Something like that. I got actually two of my main cast from open casting, and one actually I knew her from my first film. She auditioned for my first film, but for some reasons I couldn't cast her at that film, so I called her again to do the recasting for this film. And there are two, actually the male cast, all two of them I didn't audition them because I knew from the start that I wanted to work with these two guys. Yeah, because two of them is actually, they're my good friends as well, so yeah.
So tell us what it was like working with those two good friends.
I think it was interesting because actually one of them is actually a director as well. He's doing his first film right now. He's directing his first film, and I think when you have a friend as your actor, I think there's a good point and a bad point to it. Sometimes maybe there are, how do I say this? A director and actor relationship is kind of different, isn't it? It's like you're friends, yeah. Like you're supposed to be close, but not too close, and something like that. but when you're doing it with friends, I think there's a mutual understanding that okay, when we're on set, when we are working, then I'm the director and you're the actor. So you do what I say, It's something like that. Like okay, so there's a gap there, But after the cut, we become good friends again. So I think that's kind of tricky as well. I mean, like. I'm well aware, and I spoke to them about that. I mean, I'm like, we are well aware that what we are supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. Yeah.
Filmmaking takes a lot of time and effort out of your personal life. What kind of challenges did you go through trying to, keep all your friends, staying in touch with family while you were making this film?
Well, I think I got it easy because my husband is my producer, so I don't have any issues with that. So we're practically 24/7 together, We are sleeping together, and we go to the office together, and we go home together, and we go to meetings together, So we go to festivals together. So I think I have absolutely no problem with my husband, but in terms of it and my family, I think not my. I mean, like my father and my mother. I think after I got married, they're actually. I mean, they used to have a problem with that, because filmmaking is too. And Indonesia is still very, you don't go out of the house unless you're married. Yeah, so there's a difference in culture there. So when I was not married, it was quite difficult. But after that, I think it was fine. I think the biggest problem is my daughter because she's only 4 years old, and it takes, I mean, like sometimes it broke my heart so that I have to leave her for so long. So yeah, but then, you know, it's, it's one of the things that I have to do, yeah. So yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the film industry in Indonesia. How is it different from maybe the film industry here in America?
Well, one thing is for sure there's different is that the industry is still developing. Filmmakers in Indonesia actually come straight to the exhibitors, and because we don't have any distributors, so the food chain is kind of missing one link there. So as a filmmaker, as a producer of the film, you will have to bring your own film. You have to make your own copies and go to straight to the cinemas to be able to have people seeing your films. Yeah, I think so. That's kind of one of the biggest difference. And I think along the way, but you know, this recent years, it has been the numbers of Indonesian cinema has been going up, and sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. You know, it's still growing. You know, and there's a lot of quality films actually being produced as we're speaking now. You know, and there's a couple of titles that I can name after that I can be proud of and say that it's an Indonesian film for the last 10 years. Yeah.
And as far as any foundations or organizations that help young filmmakers or independent filmmakers, did you utilize any of those? Are there any to utilize in Indonesia?
Well, Indonesia is a third world country, so there's a couple of foundations in the world that are actually helping us. You know, like in this film, I've got Hubert Ball's Fund and actually the Gothenburg International Film Funding. The relationship with the government, between the filmmakers and the government, is still not quite established yet. We're still working on it, how the government can help us and how we can actually get the government to help us, and we can help the government and the Indonesian film as a whole. But I think there's still a lot of things to be worked on about that, because yet we still haven't got a funding that is open for everybody. Yeah.
And how does it feel to have the honor of being the first Indonesian film accepted into the Sundance Film Festival?
Yeah, it was it was actually the first Indonesian film that got to compete in Sundance Film Festival, and I think that was, I don't know, I mean, I still couldn't believe it. And maybe you know, maybe they missed one title or something like that during those years. Maybe it's not the first time, because I don't know, it feels weird to say that, you know. And I every time I heard it, I feel weird as well, you know. Really, it's the first time? Come on. I mean, like, you sure you don't miss one name or two over there? Yeah, but yeah, it's actually quite an honor. I mean, like, I'm quite, how do I say that? I'm still amazed with that fact. I still didn't believe it, yeah.
Cool. The theme of the movie itself, I'm guessing it's kind of in the title, because it's what we don't talk about when we talk about love. But tell us a little bit about the theme.
Well, the theme is about love. It's a high school movie, but it's a high school movie about young love, about adolescent love. But it is set in the school for the visually impaired. So most of the main characters are visually impaired, are blind, or has low vision, and one is actually a hearing impaired, so he's deaf and mute. We always say that love is blind, that love at first sight, and you know, it's kind of talking about that. How do blind people have a love at first sight if they don't have that side? You know, so it's probably different for them. So maybe they fall in love with a touch instead of with someone who is beautiful or something like that. And what is beautiful to them? I think it's playing with that themes. You know, young love usually implied on, you know, like beauty, like, you know, young love tends to be more superficial than adult love, right? And I think I'm kind of playing with that. Yeah, and how do a deaf boy actually communicate with her blind girlfriend? So it's something like that. Yeah.
And what do you hope your audience takes away from viewing this film?
Actually, this is kind of connected with the question about the title as well. You know, they kind of, I mean, like in the short story, they talk about love, about the circumstances of love, and I think that's my best expectation after people viewing the film, whether they like it or not, but they got to talk about love with their friends and colleagues who they watch the film with. I think there's something that they can take away from that, and from seeing love and their life from another point of view, that, you know, because this is what actually the film is trying to do, like something normal, something everyday, but you see it in a different world that maybe you're not familiar with. Yeah.
Could you tell us about any past projects that you've had?
I actually had only one past project all through my career. I made a film called Fixie in 2008. It was translated as fiction, even though it doesn't have an English title, but I think Fixie was quite easy, to and this film actually, I didn't write it myself. This fiction thing. I have a co-writer, and I think that past project, I think it brought me of who I am right now. I mean, like it's at that time, even though it didn't do well commercially, but it was critically acclaimed back in Jakarta, back in Indonesia, and I think that kind of allowed me to do stuff that I could not do before I made that film. Like having people to believe in me more and stuff like that. So yeah, it's even though if I think back, maybe I'm not 100% happy with the film. I mean, like it's not 100% perfect. If anything, it's not perfect, of course. But I think it's part of who I am. That film, yeah.
Now that you've had so much success with this film, would you like to repeat the same genre, explore it a little more, or do you think you kind of want to move on?
Actually, my first film wasn't in the same genre. My first film was a thriller. Critics say like it's an elegant thriller. It's not actually serving the genre in a conventional way. And this film as well, it's like I said, it's a high school movie, but it's not actually, how do I say this, stay within the conventional area as well for a high school movie. So I'm a fan of, like, when I look at my career and what I want to do next, I look up to the other directors before me, like maybe like Stanley Kubrick, who did like, different genres, but he kept his personal stamp all through his career, all through his films. And maybe, if I can, I would love to be able to do something like that. I mean, like, I don't want to stay within one genre or two genres. I want to be able to do more, it's in different genres, but still in how do I say this? Maybe in my own kind of way of doing the genre.
So you talked about Stanley Kubrick. That brings me to my next question of who have been your mentors, and do you look up to any of the films maybe here that we have at Sundance today?
Actually, yeah. If I look at all people in Sundance today, oh my God, it's like famous people. Oh my God, it's him. And I would say one of my lecturers back in Australia, when I studied in Australia, his name is Scott Knight. He's a film critic, and I think he introduced a lot of things about films to me. But I think that's where I got my start as what is a film is. And I think, but I developed with my husband, who is also my producer, which didn't study filmmaking in school, but I think we kind of mentored each other, and I think that's one of the the most unique thing about our relationship, about our work relationship as well. I'm always a big fan of Stanley Kubrick. It's one of the things that cannot be, it's you cannot replace him, and Paul Thomas Anderson, of course, and Michael Haneke is one of them. And I also like a lot of Japanese filmmakers as well. Before Midnight, I really wanted to see that, it's because I love the first film and I love the second film, and I really wanted to see what he did with the third film, and on the top of my head, probably that.
When you were writing this script, did you take any of your personal characteristics and throw them into any of your characters, or did you base them off of people who are in real life, or maybe some of them off of you?
I think writers do that unconsciously, like, oh, they write it like this, but oh, yeah, that's a bit like me, yeah. I think looking back after the film is done, because the film has multicast, like it doesn't have actually a specific one big main character throughout the film, but they kind of share it within a couple of characters. I think it's kind of spread it. Maybe it's not actually my character, but actually a character that I looked up to, that I kind of like people when they do this, or I kind of hate when people do this. So yeah, it's a mix of me and the people that I know in real life, and a couple of and sometimes I put in dialogues that I've heard in because we do that, we cannot mimic what people say in real life and put it into film. Sometimes it would feel like in dialogues, it would feel like it's being it's being written, you know. When we speak in real life, when we speak to each other, when people communicate, it doesn't feel like that. And sometimes I'm copying that, you know, when I heard people talking near me or something like that, I overheard them. So and sometimes I put them, you know, I write them up. I know I shouldn't do that. That's kind of not nice, you know. People who are friends with me, you know, what is Molly doing? Why is she putting what I said in her film? You know, but you know, my friends, please be careful when you talk, you know, with me around. Yeah.
What is the media art and art scene of Indonesia?
I think Indonesia is. I think it's really unique in a way, you know, because. If you say Asia, I think it kind of stands out in a way because we have so many different cultures, we have so many different languages. Even I can't speak all of them. I mean, like I understand a couple of them, but I think from that culture, from that way of living, and because of the different characters of the different people from a different island as well, we have different kind of arts. Like say people from that island is more, their behavior is more upfront, while the other island is more reserved, like, you know, they're hiding their feelings more and say subtly. And I think that's kind of when there are people where there are directors coming from that island and this island, and they kind of come up with different kind of films and with different kind of directing, with different kind of storytelling because of that background.
And where are you from in Indonesia, and how do you think it's helped you make the movies unique to you?
Well, that my case is kind of different because, for one, my father came from Sumatra and my mom came from a totally different island, so it's two different characters in the house altogether. I was born in Jakarta and raised in this big city with, you know, traffic jams and all that, you know, tall buildings and all that, and I spent like 6 years of when I was in my 20s in Australia, so I think that's it's kind of defined who I am as well as a filmmaker. Like I'm always trying to reference my film with something more universal. I think in a way, like how you know, like the title itself, you know, it's from an American author. So that kind of happens in my films as well. Like in my first film as well, you can actually recognize a couple of the like Western culture references. You know, I think that's why, because I studied film in a Western country. So yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts or comments for our audience?
Whether they like the film or not, whether they like me or not, it's a question of being able to connect for 106 minutes with a complete stranger you have never met in your life, and I think that's wonderful. And I think that's the main goal of making this film. You know, it's not about having the audience to like it or to love it. Even when they hate it, I think it's a pleasure to have that 106 minutes. So for the audience who watch the film, I really wish to be able to thank them.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Thank you very much, Molly.
My name is Molly Surya. I'm the writer and director of What They Don't Talk About When They Talk About Love, and I'm on Native Ground. Saya Molly Surya dari Indonesia. Saya sutradara dan penulis dari Yang Tidak Dibicarakan Ketika Membicarakan Cinta, dan saya ada di On Native Ground.
We have a media partner, whatado.com, and they cover Pacific Islander news and arts, and they would just like to say congratulations on your film.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they have